Hi everyone, welcome to the A to Z Movie Show. I'm Charlie Zizza, your average moviegoer.
I'm AJ Beltis, your aspiring movie critic. You got a good episode today, Charlie.
Definitely. This is, I feel like, very much anticipated for a lot of our audience in general.
It's going to be
people.
a pretty controversial episode, too, I think.
You think so?
Just based, so full transparency, Charlie and I talk about the movies we see a little bit after we see them, but we don't go too in depth because we want to save.
We're careful. We have about a 10, 15-minute walk home after the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And all we really do is say what our overall opinion of the movie is. Because we don't want to spoil the discussion for you guys.
And what will we be discussing today, Charlie?
We're talking about the new Marvel superhero movie, which I'm sure a lot of you have seen already, Black Panther.
Black Panther it is. I know, like you said, I know some people have really been excited for this. This ended up doing, I think to the time that it's been recorded, I think nearly $500 million at the box office. So this movie's breaking a ton of records. It's one of the biggest opening weekends ever.
Yeah.
Broke February records, just doing incredibly well at the box office, breaking a ton of records. So we will be telling you guys what we think of Black Panther as the show goes on.
That's right. But first, before we get going, AJ, what are you drinking tonight?
Great question, Charlie. I am drinking one of my absolute favorites, Focal Banger from The Alchemist in Stowe, Vermont. One of the best beers of all time from one of the best breweries of all time. Charlie, what are you drinking tonight?
I'm drinking a classic Harpoon IPA brewed right here in Boston.
Yeah, you've been doing a lot of local. You did Sam Adams last week. Now you're on Harpoon.
I've been lazy. I haven't been wanting to search too much, so I just pick up whatever's at the store.
Yeah.
But it's good, whatever.
Well,
it's better than the Budweiser's, Heineken's of the world.
Can't disagree more. I'm sorry, can't agree more is what I meant to say.
That's good.
I agree with you. So I hope that you guys are either commuting, taking it easy. If you're at home, hopefully not commuting, but if you're at home having a beer alongside with us.
The earliest you can listen to this is probably Friday.
Yeah,
so I hope you are getting ready for a nice weekend.
Mm-hmm. But if you are listening to us, we would love for you to communicate with us and let us know your thoughts on our show, what you'd like to see done differently, and if you agree or disagree with the conclusions that we reach. So feel free to reach out to us on Twitter. We're at A to Z Movie Show, same address on Facebook. And if you want to email us, we are at the A to Z Movie Show at gmail.com. Also, make sure that you subscribe to us on iTunes, leave us a review. We're really trying to grow our presence, and those are the things that really help us. So if you like our show and you want to know what you can do to help people find us, tell people about our show and review us and subscribe to us on iTunes, and that'll make a big deal.
That's right. The biggest way to help us out, guys, is to just write us a quick review. So anything you want to say, good or bad, about our show, we'd love to hear it.
For sure. All right, let's get right into it, because I think we've waited long enough here. Charlie, do you mind if I just kind of give a quick overview of Black Panther for those of you who have not heard much about it, even though I'm sure most of you have? Black Panther, directed by Ryan Coogler from Creed, stars Chadwick Boseman, Michael B. Jordan, Lupita Nyong'o, and Denai Gurira of The Walking Dead fame. In the film, Black Panther, also known by his alter ego of T'Challa, takes his place on the throne as king of the fictional African nation of Wakanda, a hub of ancient technological prosperity. However, when a long-forgotten Wakandan with a claim on the throne appears to take back what he believes is his, it's up to T'Challa and his allies to save Wakanda and protect its secret abundance of power and resources to ensure their use for good. Charlie, let me tell you something. I'm tired. I am tired of superhero movies. I am tired of origin stories.
I can't agree with you more on that.
I'm tired of wasted potential, and I'm really tired of Marvel. I think, aside from, Homecoming.
Wait, why Marvel over DC?
Well, I'm tired of both of them, but I think Homecoming was the last good movie that I've really seen them make. And then before that, I would probably maybe say Civil War. I felt like Marvel has really crapped the bed over the past couple of years, and I haven't been a big fan of. I didn't like Guardians 2 that much. I didn't like Doctor Strange at all. I've been very meh on all of their movies lately.
There's just so many.
Yeah.
It's nonstop, and the only time I go to see them, because I've never been a huge fan of superhero movies, alright? Mm-hmm. I'll be honest with you guys. But there are some that I really like. All the Batman Dark Knight movies are good. Iron Man movies are really good. I like those. So I'm not against superhero movies. If it's good, it's good. But, it's just like there's so many of them. And every time I go see one, it's because I'm dragged to it. Almost every time.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman I was kind of dragged to.
I feel like there's a lot of superhero fatigue going on. I think the box office would disagree, but I think the general consensus is there's so much content from Marvel Cinematic Universe and Marvel in general and the DCEU, and just people are getting really sick of it.
I don't disagree. I think I get that sense from people, but somehow, for some reason, they still go to see this movie.
And I think the spillover effect we're seeing is what's causing movies like Black Panther that should be phenomenal to really blend in with a lot of these origin stories. And we'll get into my specific qualms with it in just a bit, but the fact that this felt so redundant of so many origin stories post Iron Man, it felt like it was...
What do you mean post Iron Man?
So I'd say up to Iron Man, you had a good array of different origin stories. You had Batman Begins, you had Spider-Man, you had... what else was there? I mean, there was the original Batman. There were even the X-Men movies did a pretty good job of building their universe. Not a fantastic job, but a decent enough job. You could have an origin story for a superhero, and it would be unique. It would be an event to go and see this origin story. Not to say that they're not doing that anymore, but because it's such a saturation, it got too much.
Yeah,
and
I mean. They were good up until a point.
Yeah.
And like I said, the Dark Knight series was really good, and that was pretty recent. I mean, it doesn't.
That was, I think, 2005, 2008, 2012.
Yeah, not long ago. But those are great movies. Mm-hmm. But to counteract that, there are so many superhero movies that just, like you said, blend in, aren't noteworthy.
And I hate to say it, I think it's going to be controversial, but I think this is one of those movies. At least for me it is. It's a movie that really, I'll say, especially for the first half, really was just a knockoff. I saw it in Wonder Woman. I saw the same thing in like I said, Doctor Strange. I saw this in Thor, and I'm just like, I wanted something different. And after a while, it did give me something a little bit different, but overall, it's tough for me to fully embrace this movie, so...
I think it was trying to push the boundary a little bit.
How so?
It did at certain points stand out from all these other this bulk of Marvel and DC movies that you see. I don't know what it is, and there were.
Can you think of any examples? Because I'm really drawing a blank on.
I mean, the storyline, which I'll talk about a little bit later, I think was definitely going in a good direction. And I have a little bit of a rant to go on about that. We'll get to that. Some of the action sequences were pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I think it was trying. I'm not saying it succeeded, but you could see that it was making an effort to be a little bit different. And in the end, I don't think it succeeded in that. I think that it does blend in.
See, this is really interesting.
And I don't know that the audiences will agree.
No, they won't. This movie has an A+ from CinemaScore.
Yeah, I looked it up today before we went to go see this. I saw 97% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Something I will say, and it's not a big disparity, but it's big enough comparatively, and it's 97% on Rotten Tomatoes from critics, 77% from audiences. Yes. So there is not exactly a total match here.
That's weird, though.
Yeah.
I mean, is that typical for a superhero movie?
Well, I think maybe some critics feel obliged to recognize that diversity in front of and behind the camera. I think this is a very important milestone for Hollywood, and I'll give them that. And I think that might have something to do with it.
No, that's fine.
Yeah. But let's start with the beginning. I absolutely hated the first hour to an hour and a half of this movie. It was so terribly disjointed. It didn't seem to have any idea what it wanted to be. It was jumping between a superhero movie to an origin story to a political story to a thematic metaphor about socioeconomic issues and trying to be a statement. And there were so many storylines that really didn't lead to anything until way later in the film. So you had, from this point on, we will be talking about spoilers. The storyline at the very beginning about these people who may or may not be Wakandans, and then you have the story of Michael B. Jordan's character, who, spoiler alert, he's a Wakandan, and then you've got what's his name, Chadwick Boseman and his group of people in Wakanda, and they're all Wakandans, and it's this whole mystery of are you a Wakandan? It was so disjointed, and it really messed with my, I guess, willing suspension of disbelief, because it was not very well told. It was not very tight. They could easily have cut an extra 15 minutes. There were scenes where I was just like, that cut could have been 1 second shorter.
See, I had that same problem, but I had it in the middle / the second half of the movie.
See, I loved the second half.
I hate it. And now, okay, granted, that might be because in the first half of the movie, I was kind of like, okay, I'm trying to piece this all together, figure out what's going on. I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt. And in the second half of the movie, I was like, okay, this is going nowhere. I'm done with this. I want to leave. And I was about to leave in the last 20 to 25 minutes of the movie. I was like, I can't even sit here anymore. I'm going to go sit outside in the lobby and play on my phone because that's going to be more entertaining than this movie.
See, all right, so let's stick with it sequentially. Tell me what you liked more about the first. So I get that you liked about the fact that you're trying to piece it together and see where it was going.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I don't think that there's anything concrete about the first half
there's nothing concrete about that first half.
But I gave up on it in the second half. The only thing I could say is in the first half you had a lot of, and this kind of goes to the cultural African perspective that they're kind of going for in this movie. Mm-hmm. You had the kid losing his father. That's something that comes up a lot. The inner cities, like you saw the kid shooting the basketball with a crate instead of like an actual basketball hoop. So there are problems going on, mm-hmm. And you could be like, this could be going somewhere cool. This could be saying this could have a cool message or an important message. I think it did in the end. Overall, I think it was diluted by a lot of other things. But I was giving the movie the benefit of the doubt.
But I want to know what you think the message of the movie is.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a message, but it's like I said, it's definitely diluted by a lot of bulk that didn't need to be there in this movie.
Yeah, I think this movie to me was like edited by a 9-year-old. This was so... I mean, effects were great. I also think that this was way too dependent on the effects, both in the first half and in the second half where I really started to like the film. There were just random effect shots that didn't need to be there, and it was kind of frustrating. I was like, don't show me this lingering effect shot. Show me plot. Show me character. But
that's a problem that you see in these movies all the time.
I know, and it was really frustrating because I was thinking back on the original Spider-Man movie. And again, for people who are over the age of 30, they're like, what do you mean think back on that Spider-Man? That was 15 years ago. And in this whole span of movies, that Spider-Man story is relatively recent. But they had effects in Spider-Man, but it wasn't really that big of an issue. Like, towards the end, when Green Goblin and Peter are fighting, it's a hand-to-hand, like, fist combat fight. They throw away all their issues, and the wall that falls down on the Green Goblin at the end, that's a real wall. That's practical effects. You don't need any special effects. You don't always need special effects for a superhero movie. Marvel, start listening. Practical effects made it happen. Keep it real. Yes, of course there were effects in Spider-Man, but they weren't as in your face or obvious as they were in a movie like Black Panther, where you're literally in a mine shaft, and I think that entire scene was CG. I don't think there was one legitimate real...
You mean the base that's underground?
Yeah, where they're like the train scene where you have...
I thought it looked nice.
I mean, it was cool, but none of it was real. It was CGI characters fighting with a CGI background.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, I mean, it looks cool, but come on, dude, let's keep it real. Let's keep it grounded. Let's keep it legitimate. Don't throw it all to a computer. Have some real stakes and show the real people fighting it out.
Yeah, that's a fair point. That's not something that has traditionally bothered me a lot.
It wouldn't bother me terribly, but it was just it crossed a line. It really did cross a line for me. Like the effects were just too much for me.
Yeah, there were definitely a lot.
Also, did you notice that they had a bunch of? It almost seemed like they were post-production too. Lingering, useless close-ups of Daniel Kaluuya's character.
Who is
the guy from Get Out?
Oh. What do you mean close-ups?
It was just random like reaction shots of his that didn't need to be there, but I'm pretty sure Marvel was like, "Oh, everyone loved Get Out, and he was the guy from Get Out. Let's throw some more shots of him at the beginning."
In hindsight, maybe, yeah.
And what was really funny about that too is in all the scenes go back and watch the movie, and you'll notice that in all the reaction shots of everybody from Denai from Walking Dead and Lupita Nyong'o, and this is someone from one of the most watched TV shows ever and an Oscar-winning actress, and they keep showing you the person from Get Out, and his background looks so fake, and to me that seemed like
there were a lot of times in the background completely fake.
Bad effects too, but it's also like we got Get Out's really popular right now. We got to get the guy from Get Out and really push this in the movie. That's kind of how I read it.
There's probably some truth to that.
Yeah. So that's kind of my bigger problem with the first half of this movie, and we haven't really talked about Michael B. Jordan's character, who is the villain. He plays Eric, who is the person who has a claim to the throne. And I actually didn't even recognize it was Michael B. Jordan until the end. I was not towards the end, but like the middle. I was like, where do I know that guy from? And I'll if you have anything to talk about before this.
I do.
Okay, yeah, please go.
My biggest problem with this movie is it doesn't need to be a superhero movie. It just doesn't. The plot, the story, the message are all great, but that could be any other movie. There's no reason. It was only a superhero movie until the last battle scene. That's the only time.
Wait, sorry, are you saying it was only a superhero movie until or during?
Or after. Sorry, yes, after that point. Or during that point, and then afterwards.
Yeah, that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, is that this movie was so disjointed, didn't really know what theme it was going for. And I'm all for movies that can balance different genres. Ghost is one of my favorite movies, and that's a comedy, that's a drama, that's a romance. Changeling's one of my favorite movies, and that's a courtroom drama, a historical drama. There's ways to balance genres well, and this movie, for me, didn't do it.
And I understand that this is part of a long-standing comic book tradition, series, whatever, but you have the majority of this movie, the plot that they're getting towards is good. It's really good. It's interesting. You have this African city, and then that's doing really, really well, and then you have all this African descendant population all across the world who's struggling, and the dilemma is, do they help them? Do they not help them? And that's an important question, and they kind of work into the plot really well, but it's diluted, and they're trying to make this a superhero movie by putting in all these action scenes, all these stupid little lines that aren't that great or entertaining. See, and add all these effects in, like you were talking about, and it's not that interesting. I wanted to know more about this moral struggle. I didn't want to see this semi superhero fight this,
and that's why the Dark Knight was able to succeed so much, was because you have a lot of morality. I mean, you see the concept of you die a hero or live to see yourself become the villain. You see that actually played out on screen while also being a superhero movie. So the morality works its way into actuality, which is why a movie like The Dark Knight succeeds so well.
But it wasn't like, oh, let's have this little plot point right here, and then a bunch of superhero crap and some action scenes and some cheesy little lines, and then maybe a little bit more plot over here. It was all worked together into one cohesive movie, and it all worked together.
So
it's not that at all.
Here's my thoughts here, and this also ties into a point I wanted to bring up about the villain. I actually really agreed with the villain in many ways. Like you said, the Wakandans, they have so much technology, and it's kind of selfish for them to be not sharing it. Like, I can understand them maybe not exposing the truth to the world, and maybe not being so open about it, but at the same time, it's like, there have been people dying, and they could be using this to a great extent.
I don't think that it was the intention of the writers to completely have the audience side completely with the protagonist.
Antagonist.
No, I'm saying.
Oh, I
you
see.
You could take either side or both sides at the same time. I was.
No, you can't, because then let me tell you what happened.
From a practicality standpoint, I can see where the previous
during the first
from.
hour and 30 minutes, sure, hour 30, 35 minutes, sure, but there's that one point where it's like, well, I can't side with this guy because he's a dick, and that was the scene where after he won the battle against T'Challa and said, like, burn all the rest of the plants, and choked that woman, you're like, well, you can't root for this guy, even though logically he's making sense because he's a dick.
Well, okay, they're both logically making sense. This is a good
This could be a discussion all on its own.
I actually like this because they start off with directing the audience towards favoring the incumbents, the past kings, the brand new king. It all makes sense, and in a way, it does make sense. The moral argument is there: protect the people that you can protect, and don't get involved in outside things.
Because it's like if you open Pandora's box,
there's an argument for it.
If you open Pandora's box, then everyone's going to come after you, and then you're going to feel the need to take over everybody and have so much power, which is what we see from Michael B. Jordan's character.
And then you can't say if you're supporting everybody else, you can't sustain yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's something to be said for that. And the villain, who is kind of fighting for the other side, or is very much fighting for the other side of this very successful African country, who is isolated from the rest of the world, helping out the black community worldwide. He's portrayed very much as a villain until the last quarter of the movie, probably.
I disagree with you there.
This is
great. We have such total opposite views.
No, come on, they are. They're portraying him as like this. Even visually, like they make him look like kind of like a scrub.
All right, so I'll say this.
Drive that point home, and then they have the protagonist from earlier on in the movie kind of switch sides in favor of him. Even the main character does.
See,
and that's interesting. I do like that. And
that's like the last second of his life when after he. Again, you're in spoiler here. After he kills him, he's like, all right, fine, I'll take you to see what your father wanted you to see.
That's not what I'm talking about. I think that they focus too much on that, by the way.
That was like you're talking about 10 seconds of his life.
You're talking about one person versus millions of people.
So here's the way that I see them structuring him. Yes, of course, he's seen as like a thug, a robber, a borderline murderer. He murdered a character.
Even the way they have him talk and dress, like he just looks like somebody who is just.
But that
very
one
selfish
scene,
and all about himself.
The one scene where he goes to Wakanda to claim the throne, you really buy his story, and that's again where I can see where he said literally, you guys came and murdered my dad. That was my throne. I didn't do anything to deserve this. Why can't I have my throne? And so I'm challenging you. And that was where I started to sympathize with the eventual antagonist of this movie.
A little bit, but I gotta say, I was still rooting for the incumbent king. What's his name?
T'Challa.
You
can just call him Black Panther. That's
Black Panther. Okay,
yeah, sure.
Yeah, Black Panther, the main Black Panther guy. I was still on his side at that point, and that's not because I agreed with him morally, but that was because that's how the movie was directing you. Mm-hmm. The guy who was challenging him for the throne was still portrayed as the villain.
I disagree. I mean, they were showing him like. I mean, after he became king, they showed him like hugging his dad when he died. Like they showed the whole.
At some point, it switches. It does, but while he's taking over the throne, he's still the villain because you have all the guys who are portrayed as being the good guys in the first half of the movie still fighting against him. And when they start to switch over, that's when you're kind of like, oh, maybe this guy's a point. And I'm not saying that logically you can't agree with the guy, but as you're watching the movie, you're kind of like a mouse in like a maze here.
I think
so you're going along with.
I think structurally, I agree with you. Like it makes sense for that to be the way you perceived it. I just think character-wise, what I'm saying makes more sense because, like, again, character-wise, you understand where this guy's coming from, and you can sort of see why someone would switch sides and root for the other person.
Yeah.
But let's talk now because we're starting to talk about the part of the movie where I started to get buy-in. And I was very much like you towards the end when I was like, I could be ready to walk out of this movie theater and feel no qualms whatsoever. This better be building to something because otherwise I'm going to give this movie 1 star. It's just bullcrap. Right when he shows up, they have that battle for the throne and everything after that, I was so on board for it. Like, that was... For me, a game changer. It was quality stuff. The action was spectacular. The conflict between Michael B. Jordan and Chadwick Boseman's character. So the old Black Panther and the new Black Panther.
Wait, are you talking about when he's challenging him for the throne initially?
Yeah. So fine. That fight was like, oh, I actually might end up liking this movie. And then like the spillover effects of the big war that happens is really great.
Okay. I don't disagree with you on that. I think that the challenge scene was fine, and the the internal struggle of all the people close to the king. Do we support this new king even though he's sort of like an intruder?
Is your allegiance to the king or to the country?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that struggle was interesting, but like the final battle, that was terrible. There was nothing.
I love that final battle.
Nothing
that was,
memorable.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not kidding you.
I thought it was an amazing final. Again,
you had these CG rhinos flying around. You got this girl. Oh my god! Wow, she knows this rhino, so she stopped the rhino in the middle of a charge.
No,
that was the end of the battle.
No,
that's how the battle ended.
No, the battle ended because Daniel Kaluuya's character was like charging up and saw that his girlfriend was stopping, and then he stopped the rhino himself. And then she said, "Are you going to kill me, my love?" It was specific. It was not because of the rhino. No.
Come on, the rhino licks her. Well, the rhino stops.
Maybe
and then
both, but
like
Daniel Kaluuya was not going to kill his girlfriend, although she was going to kill him, which I thought was kind of cool. I thought the final battle was really cool. I mean, again, not enough to say like, "Wow, this movie's amazing," but I thought it was.
Asleep. That's the point where I was about to walk out. I was like, I'm so bored in this movie. I'm so bored. I don't care.
Yeah, it's crazy to see that you were more invested in the first half and I was invested in the second half, but. I think we're both kind of come to a common consensus.
That's not to say that the first half is better than the second half or vice versa.
It's definitely not.
It's just...
Oh, God, that stupid scene in Korea. What? We didn't talk about Andy Serkis's character, who was totally wasted. The guy who apparently is the big baddie who killed the guy's dad, and then he was just a plot device to connect us to a bigger villain, and I'm just like, that felt so You could have had a complete movie about Black Panther's conflict with this guy who was training. What's the substance they were trying to trade again? I almost want to call it unobtainium just to piss some people off. I know that's from Avatar, but
it's something like that. Its name makes sense.
Let's just call it.
Levitium or something.
Let's just call it unobtainium so we can piss some people off.
No, come on. It has a name.
Unobtainium. So they're fighting over this unobtainium, and this guy's been stealing it from the Wakandans, and that's what makes him really powerful and really tech savvy. And then after a while, he gets killed by surprise, a Wakandan, and it reminded me of, I don't know if you've seen Mission Impossible 5, but at the end of that movie, everyone's just kind of taking off a mask, and it's like, oh, you're the Prime Minister. No, I'm really Ethan Hunt. It's just, I don't know. I really think that there was that opportunity within the characters they gave us in the first part of the film, and then the action they gave us in the second part of the film, to really build something more concrete. Like, why not have that storyline with Andy Serkis's character?
Vibranium? Is that it?
Vibranium? Yeah,
Vibranium. Oh, yeah, because it vibrates or something.
I'm talking about, why not have Michael B. Jordan and have him sit aside until the second movie? Because Black Panther is definitely going to get a sequel.
Oh, definitely.
And this movie was really long, poorly edited, and you could have made that first hour and a half a lot stronger. You could have gone a little bit more in depth with the whole history of Wakanda. You could have gone in depth about the history of the tribes. I thought that was really interesting. The tribe story about how they sort of come back in the end. Even though they lost that, I almost want to call that a trial by combat.
But that was another one of those cliches where it's like, oh, we're not going to help you, but surprise, in the middle of the battle, we're going to come help you.
So, yeah, that I think was the biggest issue for me, was that there was a lot of potential in this. You have Marvel, you have Disney, you have great stars, and you just kind of get an average movie out of it, and because of that, it almost loses points and goes below average just for the sake of being average, despite its potential. Anything else you want to say about this, Charlie?
Below average. I want to drive home the point, and I know this is gonna change because again, there'll probably be a sequel, and we're gonna get more into the canon of this series, the Black Panther.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know much about it. I don't know anything about it. But this did not need to be a superhero movie. This would have been a great standalone movie.
Great?
No, but you would have removed all the garbage, all the stuff where they're trying to make it a superhero movie, all this forced action, this forced, pure entertainment for the general audience, and filled it in with more detail on the plot and more conflict. And I know that's the stuff that I really liked. I really enjoyed parts of this movie. They were probably...
What were some parts that you enjoyed?
Anything that had to do with the country and the city itself, the politics, the dilemma that they had morally, whether or not they want to help out the people who come from the same region of Africa worldwide. All that stuff is interesting. All the things where they're fighting over this stupid resource that could have been replaced with oil or water or literally
unobtainium.
Whatever. Come on, who cares? This is a good story, but they forced it into, and this might have been a story that already was true in the comic books, I don't know. They forced it into this action movie that didn't need to happen.
All right, what's your rating?
2 out of 5 bottles of beer on the wall for Black Panther.
All right.
AJ, what about you?
All right, so I was kind of on the border about whether or not I wanted to give this a bad review or a good review, and so I ended up getting somewhere in the middle because thinking back on it, despite the fact that I absolutely loved the second half of this movie, I did think that all of the loose ends were eventually abandoned or brought to the point where you could move the story forward. It just took a while to get there, and I can't really recommend somebody sitting through an hour and a half of very subpar movie to get to 45 minutes of pretty solid movie. And again, I know that you kind of had a reverse approach to that. This is just what I'm thinking. And then on top of that, the biggest letdown for me is the lost potential. So much like Wonder Woman, the film's star and behind the camera crew were not white males, and instead of something new and exciting and original and unique to match that fresh approach, both, again, in front of the camera and behind the camera, we had the exact same play-by-play, run-of-the-mill superhero startup story that I and so many others have become quite desensitized to over the last decade.
It's true.
So, that said, I'm going to give this movie a 2.5 out of 5. I very sadly say overall I don't recommend it. And again, the very sadly comes with the fact that I think that there is a lot in the second half of this movie to like, and I also think that there's a lot in the first half of the movie that had the potential to build to something. But if you cut out the characters you didn't need to have mentioned in there, if you streamline that storyline about Michael B. Jordan's character, and get it to where it needs to go faster so that you're not wondering, why are we jumping in between an African nation to England to Korea to, is this like a James Bond movie? Let's keep it focused. Let's keep it legit. Why
is there a white guy from the CIA who has nothing to do with anything literally flying an aircraft fighting a civil war in a foreign country that he didn't even... or that the world doesn't even know exists?
I didn't like it until that scene where he started flying that. That was kind of cool.
What? Come on! It doesn't make any sense.
But again, that was a character that didn't need to be there.
John Kerry went over
Jim Carrey? Oh, John Kerry
went over to Rwanda in the 90s and started battling the Hutus. What is this? Come on!
I don't know.
And even
again,
worse,
it's not
in
a
this
focused movie.
Futuristic 22nd century spacecraft / aircraft thing.
Just for the record, I don't think I've ever seen your face as angry as you were.
It doesn't make any sense.
You did it again. So this is it's interesting that we had different viewpoints about the story structure and the film structure. We both ended up at a pretty similar rating.
It's bad. Don't see it, guys.
It could have been great. And I know that some people out there think it's great, and I know some people out there think we're crazy for not thinking that it's great. But I think I speak for both Charlie and I that there was a lot of potential direction that this film could have gone in, and it just wasn't the right approach to this kind of movie. We were looking for something a little bit more unique, something a little bit more standalone, and something that made it worth our while, and unfortunately we did not get that. Right, Charlie?
If your friends were trying to drag you to a movie, I think I, Tonya is still playing. Go see that.
You literally said in the last episode that it let you down.
It did, but come on. You're probably being dragged to the movie if you're going to see this. Just be like, hey, I heard this movie was garbage.
I don't think $500
let's go see this other movie that's a little bit less garbage instead.
All right, let's table that for another day. I'm very excited for Annihilation. I'm very excited for Game Night. All that said, we will have a Oscar-focused episode for you guys later next week, and we're hoping to also hit up one of those other 2 movies I just mentioned, Game Night or Annihilation. We'll get you a review for that relatively soon.
Yeah, we'll aim for both.
And now, I mean, we've got a couple month lull coming up, Charlie. There's going to be a couple months of movies that have just been pushed out by the studios,
true.
In between award season and summer box office. So you know what that means.
So you think we're gonna go revisit some?
I think we're going to go revisit some
good classics,
good modern classics. Nice. That we can have a really great conversation about, and hopefully bring to light so people who haven't heard of these movies or haven't seen them or haven't taken them very seriously can hopefully go back and revisit it with a different eye.
Or, I mean, something that you have a strong opinion about, we can have a discussion. You maybe haven't seen it in a while, and we can give you a fresh take on it.
All right, so we posed that question to you guys. What modern classics, any movie that came out before the year of 2015, should Charlie and I go back and revisit? You can let us know. Again, you can tweet us at A to Z Movie Show. You can let us know on Facebook at the same address, A to Z Movie Show, or shoot us an email at theatozmovieshow@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing your thoughts.
That's right. We take your suggestions seriously. So if there's a movie that you really feel strongly about that you want to hear talked about by us, the average moviegoer and the movie guru, please let us know, and we will definitely consider having an episode on that in the next month or 2.
And approximately 77% of you, if Rotten Tomatoes has any legitimacy, will probably disagree with us on what we just said in this episode. So feel free to let us know why we are wrong about our Black Panther review, and we look forward to hearing that as well.
All right, guys. Thank you for listening. That's it for this week, and we will see you in 7 days. Hopefully.